Hello and welcome back to AP Psychology here on Educator.com. This segment we're going to be taking a look at stress and coping. The objectives here is going to be looking at the theories of stress and the effects of stress on both our psychological and physical well-being. So in this segment, let's talk about stress, baby. Let's talk about anxiety. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that can be. Let's talk about stress. Yes, I really just did that. So when we look at stress, we first take a look at the bigger picture of health psychology. Yes, I'm still smiling about my singing. So we're using behavioral principles to prevent illness and promote health. Behavioral medicine, if you ever see a clinic of behavioral medicine, it's looking to apply psychology to manage medical problems such as asthma and diabetes. And so you can actually combine psych with medical practitioners and create a really, really cool way of changing people's behavior, changing people's attitudes, and making them healthier and happier. And then there's the term lifestyle diseases, and that's going to be diseases related to health-damaging personal habits. And we all have something that we do. We all have vices. We all have bad habits. But we can make choices to have good habits in our lives and become healthier. That'll help us deal with stress. Behavior risk factors are behaviors that increase the chances of disease, injury, or premature death. And that's going to include things like smoking, drugs, excessive alcohol, not exercising, eating American food with lots of fat, sugar, and whatever it might happen to be. We have a lot of foods that have unnecessary levels of both of these in there. That's one of the reasons why we are one of the heaviest nations in the world. I think second now, literally just this past week, it came out that the United States is now second after Mexico in terms of being the heaviest nation in the world. Then there is what is known as the disease-prone personality. And yes, there is such a thing. And this is a personality type that's associated with poor health. The person often is chronically depressed, anxious, hostile, and frequently ill. So that is a possibility. So behavioral risk factors, stuff we do, choices we make that impact our health in a negative way. Stress, hormones, and the brain. You know that stress activates the sympathetic nervous system. Some people will say, "What are you so uptight about? Why are you so stressed?" That's because adrenaline and noradrenaline has been released. Adrenaline is also known as epinephrine. That is the British version of the name. And then noradrenaline is norepinephrine. So they're identical for future reference. And that's quick to act. So these are going to be emergency responses. Now, cortisol is another hormone in the body. It's not quite as quick to act, but it does arouse the body. And one of the things that cortisol is connected with is belly fat. So chronic stress means chronic cortisol production. So belly fat is something that you're going to see in individuals with chronic stress. In the brain, you've got the amygdala recognizing a threat. So you've got that fight-flight response. And so that gets a message to the hypothalamus. And then the hypothalamus sends the message to the adrenal glands on top of the kidneys to release cortisol. And it's great for survival situations. But the reality is how much do we really encounter those? Instead, what tends to happen is that we cognitively stress ourselves out. Stress is mainly a matter of attitude and approach toward the things that happen in our lives. So attitude is going to be very important. But in the long term, with cortisol especially, elevated levels can suppress the immune system, increase blood pressure, increase blood sugar, decrease libido, produce acne, contribute to obesity, especially belly fat, as I mentioned, and more. And so stress is also associated with anxiety issues, both short-term and long-term. There are ways to cope with stress. There are predictors in terms of how we think of the things that happen in our lives. Those predictors will show whether we are stressful or not stressful.